She thought the phone call would save her. When she dialed 911 that night, her hands were shaking, but her voice sounded calm. Too calm. Operators are trained to listen for panic, fear, urgency. What they heard instead was control, measured breaths, short answers, a voice that sounded like it had already accepted what was coming. What she didn't know was that this single call would quietly end her life as she knew it. And the darkest truth of this story, you'll only fully understand it by the end of this video. Just hours earlier, she was still living what looked like an ordinary life, a wife, a routine. Morning coffee left unfinished on the counter, shoes by the door, a home that looked peaceful from the outside. Friends would later say they never saw it coming. No public fights, no dramatic scenes, no obvious signs of danger. But behind closed doors, something had been breaking for a long time. It wasn't one argument. It was years of tension that never fully disappeared. Unspoken anger, conversations that ended before anything was resolved, silence that grew heavier with every passing month. That night, the argument started small. It always did. A comment that hit the wrong nerve, a look that lasted a second too long, words that carried years of resentment. Voices rose, then stopped. The kind of pause where both people realize something has changed. At some point, the line was crossed. She would later say it was an accident, that she panicked, that she never meant for it to happen, that everything happened too fast. But panic doesn't erase actions. When the house finally went quiet, she didn't scream, she didn't run, she didn't call anyone right away. She just stood there, listening to the silence. A silence so loud it felt like pressure in her chest. No footsteps, no movement, no response. That silence followed her everywhere. Minutes passed, then more. She cleaned up small things without realizing she was doing it. Moved objects, wiped surfaces, actions driven by shock, not logic. By the time she finally picked up the phone, nothing could be undone. Not for him, and not for her. When police arrived, they noticed something immediately. The house didn't feel chaotic. There were no signs of a struggle that matched her story. Nothing overturned. Nothing broken the way it should have been. Her explanation was neat. Her emotions controlled, almost rehearsed. While investigators worked the scene, she sat alone, staring at the floor. Not crying, not shaking, just staring. That was the moment it hit her. Not fear, not shock. Realization. She wasn't going home again. You can see it in cases like this. There's a point where the person understands that the story they're telling won't save them. That details matter. That silence speaks. Days turned into interviews. Interviews turned into evidence. Investigators replayed the timeline again and again. Something didn't add up. The delay before the call. The lack of urgency. The calm tone when everything should have been chaos. Small details she thought didn't matter began to connect. A reaction that came too late. A movement that didn't make sense. A truth that refused to stay buried. She tried to hold on to hope. She told herself there was still a way out. That maybe it would be ruled self-defense. That maybe the jury would understand. But deep down, she already knew. When she sat in that interrogation room, under bright lights and quiet questions, her future became clear. No shouting, no accusations, just long pauses that forced her to fill the silence. There would be no familiar door to walk through, no bed to sleep in, no normal life waiting on the other side, just consequences. When the verdict was finally read, she didn't cry, she didn't collapse, she didn't look surprised, because she had accepted it long before. The real prison wasn't the cell, it wasn't the sentence, it wasn't the years ahead. It was the moment she realized she could never undo what she had done. Some mistakes don't just change one night, they erase an entire life. If you enjoy deep psychological true crime stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps this channel grow and allows me to bring you more stories like this, and I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think this outcome was inevitable, or could it all have ended differently? Let me know your opinion in the comments below.